Hello, my name is Nicolette Johnson, and I am a high school art teacher that's been in the same teaching position for about 11 years now. A former student of mine, Rachel, is now an art teacher herself in her first official year. And looking for art content to turn into professional development, I couldn't think of a better topic than getting some perspective from a new teacher. Without further ado, here is our interview. Rachel, you are at a high school, but you have a K through 12 license just like me. My type of humor is best at a high school, and the longer class times also suit me more. What made you choose high school?
I think it's just having more freedom to do, I guess, harder lessons. The students naturally understand simple concepts of how to use a ruler, how to cut with stuff, and I don't have to demonstrate that beforehand. They already really know how to do it, and we can get into more, I guess, serious topics for social and cultural issues without it being as much of a problem because of their age, which
Yeah,
is nice.
I know a lot of the elementary and some of the middle school teachers I know they have to cut out either templates or kind of have things more set up for their students. So we save a lot of time with that.
I still have to do that sometimes because some of the kids they just in beginning art they come in they don't really it's like they forget everything from middle school, so I do have to make a few things or at least have an example. But for the most part, they kind of figure it out on their own, which is what I'm hoping that they will do. What's character?
It does. I felt I had a good range of content knowledge, but need to learn a bit more about printmaking and some other subjects I wasn't able to take a class on in college. I just didn't have time in my schedule. Do you feel prepared in the content knowledge for your position?
I think for the most part I do because when I started at East Carolina, they started a brand new intro class for all of the students where they made us do about 5 weeks of about 12 different art mediums. And that gave you a good range of everything. And if you liked one, you went, a lot of kids ended up switching majors because of it. Someone who went into printmaking ended up wanting to go into graphic design instead.
Yep.
There were, of course, some that I didn't really like, but it definitely expanded my perspective of what art can be. I got really into photography and I wanted to introduce that into high schools if they didn't already have a photography course.
Yeah, a lot of the photography courses have gone from like old darkroom type stuff to more digital stuff. I know in our county, I believe there's only currently one high school teacher that teaches photography. The other programs kind of got like kind of went obsolete because the dealing with those kind of chemicals and the cost and just trying to find companies that sell the stuff anymore because you don't realize how many photography companies for like old fashioned darkroom have really gone under. And then for new digital stuff, you want to stay current with like the most current technology, and that has its own costs. There's a lot of costs that go into that don't necessarily translate into public school teaching a whole lot.
Yeah, I know they want a lot of my clinical teachers want to introduce digital art in some sort of form. I've introduced pixel art using pixelart.com,
Like,
and I plan to teach a little bit of stop motion animation with the help of someone I know who's gone through that process. But there's also other art mediums. This year I introduced some textiles with sewing and tapestry just to give them, just my beginning students, at least a good range to see what they like. Because I know half of them aren't going to come back anyways, but it gives them more perspective on what art can really be.
yeah, that's a great approach. I was taught how to teach teenagers, but not how to teach teenagers how to want to learn. Do you feel you're prepared in other areas like classroom management, grading, other areas that aren't necessarily like strict art content?
It's been a journey during that, with them telling me what I need a good range of formative grades along with my summative, because I know art can be very summative with the final result. I've incorporated note taking as much as some of the students hate. half the time. But this semester there wasn't much to the notes other than as a reference. But next semester I was going to turn it into bookmaking, where they had to have all their notes together
Mhm.
at the very end. I know mm, grading has been a challenge to keep up with. That's for sure. Especially when kids come at me, where is my grade, expecting me to do it the next day. I think my biggest struggle was the lack of space to put art projects so I could get to them for grading. My room is very small. It's not as big as a bunch of other schools I've seen.
Yeah, it can be organization is really like just storage is really difficult. That's why I'm really happy I use like a digital art portfolio is that once they're finished with their piece, unless they're keeping it for the art show, I'm like, please take it home. Please find it a better home than here because we only have a certain amount of space and that is not all the space we have.
A digital portfolio was actually our final, but a lot of them were not prepared for it and often complained about taking pictures of their stuff.
Mm,
It was very interesting because they have Chromebooks that they take home and they would struggle with the pictures.
hmm.
And they'd also complain about having to submit it for me to grade when some of them would take it home and then I can't grade it because I don't have it anymore.
Yeah, there was definitely some pushback at the beginning of students treating technology like they have that leisure game side of technology in their head, but actually using it as a tool for school, it was like two different universes for them. Um, and like we have laptops, school issued laptops, and students could take a picture, like they could hold it up with their camera, but it's been a lot easier because we have two classroom dedicated iPads where the iPads are only for turning in art stuff or looking up references. Like that's the only thing they're supposed to be used for. So having that like designated item for them, it still turns into an issue of if you have 32, 33 kids trying to turn something in at once with only two iPads, it takes a little bit longer. But having that like separation in their head has helped a little bit because they're just so used to just using their what they consider their personal technology, even though it's school technology, it feels personal to them because it's assigned to them. They always just use it for such leisure things that they can't switch over into like a work mode type thing.
I have noticed that. It would be nice if they issued us an iPad in the art room, but I don't know if they'll ever do that.
There's the ones I currently have are coming to their end of their lifespan, and we're because they're leaning towards more affordable like Microsoft technology. They're once they're gone, we're probably going to be looking into like a GoFundMe type situation for something like a tablet. I don't think it necessarily has to be. We currently have iPads because that we had iPad carts back in the day for a little bit, and that's what was available.
I remember the iPad carts.
Yeah,
I
so,
tell them all about it.
yeah, but then having them assigned to everybody is like another struggle. There's so many little struggles you don't realize until you're that one person in charge of 100 things at a time for students. So it's just crazy amount of things you have to think about.
Maybe we can blame COVID.
COVID helped kind of streamline some things because we figured out what things are important and what we wanted to keep, and what things are like, oh, well, I can blame this on COVID and I don't have to do this part anymore. So I feel like COVID helped me in a lot of ways of realizing what's really important in my curriculum and what I really want to teach, and what's more of a nice thing to get to, but not necessarily going to like ruin their art education career. But yeah. Hey, I wish I could have seen a bigger range of classrooms before starting my own classroom. I actually used to, the other art teacher and I used to go and creep into other teachers' classrooms and look in to see how their classroom was set up, to see what they had on their board, to see what posters they had, because we are like, we don't know what we're doing. We were both first year teachers at that point. So, how did your experience as a substitute teacher before you became a full official teacher, how did that help prepare you for your own classroom?
I mean, it was being a sub is very different from being a teacher. There's a lack of respect for subs, and then there's a level of respect for subs. It's a fine line. I noticed a lot of teachers had very crammed walls because I found myself in elementary classrooms a lot. Their walls were filled with things, and oftentimes I found out later at my long term subbing job that they all had to take everything down at the end of the school year for the custodians to go through and clean all the walls. But a lot of Common Core teachers don't always have the same classrooms in elementary schools. They get moved around a lot. Unlike an elective teacher, they're just kind of stuck in place. But even I had to take down anything that was in the long term room for me. It was a pain, but I did it. I did notice there was a lot of educational tools on the wall relevant to what they were teaching. One thing I didn't notice that I found out in my current job was having standards on my walls and objectives. I was told that when walkthroughs come go through when I'm teaching, I need to have standards on my board and the objectives, which are sometimes hard to keep up with. I have an extra whiteboard I did have to purchase to put on my just it's a small thing. It just says what we're doing at the time. I do sometimes forget to change what we're doing. Since we do week long stuff, I don't really have to change much on it. The standards were hard for me to understand what they meant by standards. I didn't know if they wanted a specific thing or if they meant my art standards, which I need to get posters for that. But right now I just have them screenshotted and pasted on Google Docs, printed out, and slapped on the wall.
They were talking about the North Carolina essential standards.
I think they just said I was told whatever my standards for my program of study is, so I just went with the National Core Art Standards. Just
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, because I know North Carolina standards, they literally just updated, start new for this year. Um, but they're still kind of unpacking them. They're still kind of like rolling them out a little bit. Because I looked into them last year because I was a little bit concerned the way they used the language. It sounded like it was a little bit confusing. There was a lot going on. And then after I like looked through them, I was like, okay, this is all stuff I do anyways. The only thing I had to add was talking about AI a little bit, technology a little bit deeper. And I think there's one other little thing I had to fix up. Everything else was kind of already things I was doing and already felt was important. Um, but I remembered I had an observation by a teacher or by not by a administrator who had been an English teacher, and he really doted on having our standards up. So I printed them out and had them above my sink. Um, I actually need to update them because I'm still trying to figure out how to. Because the old ones, they were in six different little categories. Now they're in four categories that are kind of fit into eight smaller categories. It's again kind of confusing. But so the standards being up kind of made sense because that's kind of like what we're learning throughout the whole year. It was the objectives, the daily objectives, where they were very strict at the beginning, being like, we have to have them posted every day. Which, in my own experience growing up, the only time I had seen that was with history teachers. I remember history teachers would have TLW, the learner will, and then whatever we were doing that day, but nobody else would really have that because it would be more, oh, we're going to be in this part of the textbook or we're going to be learning about this today. It wasn't something that was like strictly written out. um, but it was a little bit annoying because at the beginning they insisted we write it on the board when they pressed for that during COVID times. And if it's COVID times, then why aren't we posting things online so they could see it whenever? And now they're a little bit more flexible, but just having all that kind of information put out there, uh, it's kind of a lot to deal with all that different kind of stuff going on. So it can be a lot. And I feel like I just don't remember that growing up in my own high school experience, seeing that outside of history class. But I guess that just helps kind of everybody know where they should be.
I never noticed it at all.
I think I only remembered in history because I always got confused. Dates and names. I get dates and names confused a lot, which I also do in art history. And we'd be like, we're going to learn about the Democratic impact in the Civil War or something like that. And I had to be like, which ones are Democrats? I don't remember which one. Like, I don't remember this fundamental thing because at one point they switch and all that. And I'm like, yes, you told me the sentence of what we're learning today, but I'm still not sure what we're doing.
I remember daily objectives because they would often have on in most classrooms what we would be doing each day for the week, or at least a weekly schedule that was pretty consistent.
Yeah.
Which nowadays I've noticed most kids don't know how to read the board.
Yeah.
At least if I tell them, hey, you should check the board every day, or at least notice that I have our daily schedule up here.
And then
Because they'll ask you what the daily schedule is, and it's right there in the top right corner in really big letters and numbers.
you know, and you'll have that one kid that consistently comes and asks you like, "What are we doing today?" It's like, "Well, it's on the board. Go read the board instead of me doing hall duty right now." But yeah, um, I am consistently treated like I am teaching some fantastical, magical curriculum, while everybody else is teaching how to do your taxes. Like people's curriculum can be kind of dry, and everybody kind of assumes we're literally like having a grand time, having fun all the time, doing all that kind of stuff. How are the art subjects and teachers treated compared to other subjects?
I would say it's exactly what you said. So we're treated like we're teaching something very fantastical, amazing, and sometimes people say that's just art. That's not as important. It's kind of half and half.
Yeah.
I like to say I'm teaching life skills sometimes, how to communicate. I let the students talk to each other, and they're kind of learning how to interact with each other. Since post COVID, many people don't know how to talk to one another anymore
Mm,
or have much creativity. I've noticed a lack of creativity in a lot of students,
mm,
both subbing and just being a regular teacher. I'll throw a bunch of ideas out there, and it takes them a minute to like bounce into their own ideas. But it's been interesting watching them grow into a more creative mind from the start.
yeah.
Hard to explain.
Yeah.
Art is weird.
It's really subjective when so much about regular schooling is objective. Like everything has a right answer, everything has a place you're trying to get to, everybody in the same area. And literally, our job is almost the opposite of, oh no, you're supposed to do your own version of this. You're not, I don't want you to copy Picasso. I want you to do your version of a Picasso when they're, so it really kind of catches the kids off balance. And the adults kind of assume it's always a talent thing of you're either talented or not. It's like a switch you're born with. And then trying to help gently correct them and be like, well, yeah, talent is useful in some areas, but not every area. And there's skills that you can build just like an athlete builds their skills by doing exercises. An artist builds their skills by doing their own drawing, artistic exercises. Um, so I admit I feel like I need to do a better job in helping other staff members realizing that it's not a art or not art kind of thing. I think it helps a little bit the fact that we have the art show, so they're able to see the wide range of students we have, and we get to see those different like right answers. But I still feel like I could do better on that, if I'm being honest.
I'm trying to rebuild our art program. The previous teacher only taught drawing based on what I saw, and it looked like she only taught drawing throughout all of the art levels.
Oh wow.
And I brought forth, I think well, that's what they told me that's what it was, but I think it was their first ever art gallery mid-year compared to what happens in the spring, which I think in the spring in Burgaw it's a collection of artworks from the different schools in Pender County.
Hmm.
I forgot what it's called, but there was a Christmas show put on by the theater, and the theater teacher wanted me to collab, which it was a very small collaboration. We didn't do much, but she let us have an art gallery on the side during the show, and it was the to the principal was the very first art show or art gallery they'd had in a long time.
Oh,
So we got to show what the kids could actually do, which was very nice. I think it's opening the minds of the teachers because they have no idea what we actually do in our classroom because the building I'm in is very isolated. I'm in the industrial building, I'm also the only art teacher in the school, and there's no other place to display the art other than in the building that I'm in.
Oh,
So nobody really knows unless they happen to make their way into the building,
mm,
at least for right now. If we can find more display cases that are available to me, I'll put more stuff out there. But right now, everything's being used by other people.
gotcha. One of the most important things I teach is that there's more than one right answer to any problem. In a system that's so dependent on test scores and grades, art reminds kids that there's value in ambiguity and creativity. What do you think art plays in the overall curriculum at your school?
I think it plays in the sanity of some students, to be honest. I have had some kids say that it's very nice to just get a break, but then there'll be some kids who tell me that my class is as hard as art world history. And I think that's just coming from their own personal opinion or their own taste when it comes to art.
Mm,
Some of them find it very stressful because they're afraid that they're going to make bad art. Then I have to remind them that it's all biased because one person could like your stuff, and another person might truly hate it. It's just, it's all based on personal preferences, but a lot of them like the laid back attitude found in the classroom, and I think it helps them reset before they go to their next Common Core class, if they have a Common Core class next.
yeah, I think we're really a lot more protected than the performing arts because with performing arts, you have to perform in front of people. And so it's really nerve wracking. But with us, yes, they have to present their artwork, they have to present artwork, but it's not nearly, they're allowed to be detached from it if they want to be. They don't have to pull it into their identity quite as much. It's kind of more like a safer ground for them to try things out and experiment with. I love using Artsonia as a digital art portfolio and Canvas to help me stay organized. I post like my lessons and bold PowerPoints and everything that I use. But I hate how cell phones are such an addiction among my students. How is technology having an impact in your classroom?
Well, cell phones have definitely been a big issue, and it's mostly because a lot of students feel they have, I guess, the right to be on their phone 24/7, even though we're in the middle of instruction time and it's clearly preventing them from focusing on what's important,
Mm,
especially for grades.
mm,
They'll always come to me saying, what are we doing next? I'm like, well, I was explaining it, but you weren't paying attention because you were too into YouTube or TikTok that's on your phone right now. It has been a struggle with the new state law, though I have a new rule that I was going to implement next semester. I'm going to get a phone box,
mm,
much like one teacher before me when I was in high school did, and it was a bummer, but it did work. It's
mm,
just not have access to the phone immediately. A bunch of other teachers do that too at the school. They have a phone box for the kids to put their phone in at the start of class, and then they get right on into instruction. But aside from phones, the use of games on Chromebooks is also an issue. Though we use Go Guardian, and I can fully shut a kid out of their laptop or their Chromebook if I feel like it, because it connects all of them. If I want to close out their computer, and I can even leave a message for why, which I did do to one child after giving him several warnings. My message just said, "No work has been completed." And then he just slowly closes it, sighs, and then he gets his work and he starts working. So it that's been very helpful. You can also close out certain tabs. You don't have to just shut them completely out of their device.
mhm,
You can set up a scene, which is nice, where it bans certain stuff or it only allows certain things for them to view.
mm,
That was very helpful, but there is some issues behind it because some websites they might need access to this other thing like Google in order to access Google Classroom, and then but I'm trying to prevent them from going on Google so they're not searching up Snake Game, which I've not liked them do. We use Google Classroom mostly. I was told to only use Google Classroom, but something tells me I could use Canvas.
mm,
It's not been too hard navigating Google Classroom. It's just not, it doesn't have as many things to use compared to Canvas. All the assignments are just side by side or down in a row.
mhm,
Sometimes, if something is named very similarly, the kids will be confused and have a hard time finding it. Compared to in Canvas, I know you can set up particular like different modules
Hmm.
and have everything that you need for that lesson in that one module, which is nice.
Yeah, I feel like Google Classroom reminds me of Google Drive, where everything is just kind of listed there, and unless you have like the little organization system of different files, it gets confusing kind of quickly.
Google Slides is nice because that's what the kids used for their portfolios.
Mm-hmm.
It's at least something they're familiar with, and it works within all of the Google applications.
Mm-hmm.
So they can easily just access Google Classroom and Google Slides in that little, I guess, square of the nine application, the little nine dot square.
Yeah. I'm glad that Google Slides and Microsoft PowerPoint are more compatible nowadays because I want to say like 20 years ago, if you sent one to I don't think Slides existed 20 years ago now I think about it, 10 years ago. 10 years ago, there would be so much formatting errors that it would completely erase what you were doing. So now that they're more compatible, I'm not as apprehensive because I know for us, we're moving from Google over to Microsoft. And at first, I was freaking out because I was like, oh no, I'm going to lose all my information. But since then, I've tried to take something from a Google slide to a PowerPoint and it's not had that many issues at all. I was really thankful because I actually use slides as documents more than I do documents because slides you have more freedom to kind of move things where you want, in my opinion. Like I know the point of a Microsoft Word, Google Docs is supposed to be like typing things out, but that's not the way my brain works. My brain works more like a PowerPoint than a Google document. And with the phones, I tried to be strong at the beginning, and a cute really way of discouraging them on their phones was I had cute little stickers. And if I saw a phone out, I put the sticker on the phone screen to be like, hey, I see you have your phone. You need to put it away. Because they'd get annoyed and like try and take the sticker off the phone. And that worked out about the first few weeks. But the more students saw other students getting away with it, and the fact that admin just didn't have time to come in and address it, it slowly but surely kind of fell apart. So while in theory we're supposed to not have any phones out, there's still kids like doing the under the table things and then just other things like that. So it feels like it had good intentions, but if you don't have administrators to enforce it, then it just doesn't get done because I can't both teach a class and enforce cell phone policy. Like I can do one or the other. I can't do both. And I'd rather teach the kids that want to learn than deal with kids and annoy the kids that are just mentally checked out on their phones.
Yeah, I've had admin come in a few times. I mean, we'll on our, I guess, staff chat in Google. If you say I need a phone pickup, admin comes in, they take the phone, but sometimes even that becomes a big ordeal because I've had kids side eye admin over taking the phone.
Yeah,
And I've had some kids, they're not even trying to hide it. They're just like fully half their body's on the table, their arms stretched out with the phone. I'm like, you're not even trying to hide it.
yeah. Trying to be rebellious and show off type thing.
I think the phone box might help because there's a lot of things we've done this semester where their phone they could have risked the life of their phone. Like having water out when we're painting and then all of a sudden water spilling. I know most devices now are waterproof, but not all kids have that high end technology and they have older phones as well. But even waterproof devices over time could something could get damaged. But we brought out clay, we bring out charcoal. You're just risking getting all these particles just stuck inside the crevices of the device, anyways. And it kind of worked to tell them to be careful, but some people would still be bold or not care.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try the phone box and see how that goes.
I never knew I was going to clean and organize so many art materials every single week. What is something that surprised you about being an art teacher?
The sheer amount of artwork that's left behind, but the lack of space surprised me. Most of the cabinets would be filled up with stuff, or the organization of the previous teacher was just very interesting. I've had to rearrange things, and I was only given 2 days actually
Mm,
because I started on open house, so I had 2 days to prepare before the semester started. So the lack of space was what was the most challenging thing, and being a new teacher, not being prepared to make a lesson or at least two lessons every week because I didn't really have anything to work with. Once I got into a rhythm, it wasn't so bad. But I'm also in grad school, which didn't make things any easier starting that out, but I made it.
Yeah. You're juggling a whole lot just in your first semester.
It won't last forever, hopefully.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for your time and consideration for this interview. And thank you for watching.